The sky was dark as the great fleet of alien warships came close to Earth. Their scanners focused on one place, a land that no human dared to enter, a land known in whispers across the galaxy as the Forbidden Zone. The commanders of the alien fleet laughed at the warning signs. They believed humans were weak. They believed Earth was easy prey. 2,000 warriors from different alien species stood ready, proud and arrogant, each one certain that they would return with trophies and glory. The order was given and the warships released their dropships. Like burning stars, they fell into the atmosphere, cutting through the clouds, shaking the skies with fire. The ground shook as they landed. Forests split apart under the weight of alien machines. Rivers boiled with the heat of engines. The warriors raised their banners and shouted in their own tongues, declaring that Earth was theirs, but the planet did not welcome them. It did not even notice them. Instead, the zone itself breathed. Watching them in silence, the air was heavy and thick, full of scents they did not know. The leaves were wet, shining with drops of strange liquids that ate through armor if touched. The animals that moved in the shadows had eyes that glowed red. Watching from the trees, at first the aliens laughed, calling the humans cowards for hiding in such a dangerous place. They thought this wild jungle was only a tool to scare outsiders. But within the first hour, their laughter stopped. The first squad marched into the tall grass and never came out. Their comm signals screamed with static, and then silence followed. Another patrol reported strange lights in the distance. Then their voices turned to cries, then only whispers, and then nothing. One ship on the landing field shook as if something massive had grabbed it. The hull bent, metal screamed, and in seconds it was pulled beneath the ground as if the Earth itself had swallowed it. The warriors stood frozen, unsure if what they saw was real. They tightened their grips on plasma rifles and energy blades, but the jungle gave them no answers. Only more shadows, only more eyes staring back at them. Night fell quickly, too quickly, as if the sun itself feared to shine in this place. The air grew colder and strange calls echoed through the trees. The aliens made camp, setting up shields and weapons. But sleep did not come. Something moved at the edges of the light, always moving, never attacking. The sounds of heavy breathing circled the camp. One soldier fired into the dark. The blast lit up the jungle for a second. And in that second, every alien saw dozens of shapes in the trees. Tall, thin, human-like, but not human. Watching in silence, when the light faded, the shapes were gone, leaving only broken branches and the echo of footsteps. Panic began to spread. The commanders shouted orders, demanding discipline, but their own voices shook. They ordered drones to scout the area, but the drones did not return. The screen showed only static, then flashes of faces, then screams, and then black. Some warriors tried to send a message back to the fleet in orbit, but the sky above roared with storms, lightning tearing through the clouds. The signals were blocked, the stars were gone, and the fleet could no longer be reached. It was as if the Forbidden Zone itself had cut them off from the universe. Then came the first true scream of terror. One of the larger alien soldiers, strong and armored, was dragged into the dark by something unseen. The others fired their weapons wildly, blasting the forest apart. Trees exploded, fire spread, but no body was found. Only deep claw marks in the soil. The ground itself trembled as if laughing. The warriors felt it. They felt the planet was alive, and it hated them. Still, they pushed forward. Their pride would not let them retreat, not yet. They told themselves this was just a harsh world, nothing more. But deep inside, each of them began to feel the truth. This place was no accident. No natural wilderness, it was a trap, a battlefield designed long ago. And the humans who lived here were not weak. They were something else, something far more dangerous. The Forbidden Zone whispered to them through the wind. The trees seemed to lean closer. The shadows seemed to move even when no one walked there. Some warriors prayed to their gods, others cursed the humans, but none could deny the fear that grew in their hearts. 2,000 had come, proud and loud, and already some had vanished. The zone would not let them leave easily. It was only the beginning, and the darkness had only just opened its eyes. The storm raged across the Forbidden Zone as the second day began. Rain poured down in endless sheets, turning the ground into rivers of mud. Lightning cracked the sky, and every flash revealed the broken remains of ships and machines scattered in the jungle. The aliens marched forward, soaked and tired, their armor heavy with water and dirt. They were warriors from Deathworlds across the galaxy, creatures who had survived volcanoes, acid seas, frozen wastelands. Yet here, on this single planet, they felt small. Their commanders ordered them deeper into the zone, believing strength would crush whatever haunted them. But the zone was waiting, and it wanted blood. The first attack came with silence. A squad of 10 marched through the thick trees, their scanners searching for heat signatures. One soldier raised his hand. He thought he saw something moving between the branches. A dark figure, human-shaped but too fast. Then the soldier's throat opened as if cut by invisible blades. His body dropped without sound. The others spun around, weapons ready. But the jungle swallowed the killer before they could fire. Within seconds, 2 more fell, throats cut, eyes wide. The rest ran, stumbling through mud and roots, their screams echoing in the comms. But when the main force found them, there were no survivors. Only helmets full of blood and rifles still warm from desperate hands. Word spread fast through the army. Whispers of invisible hunters, shadows that killed faster than the eye could follow. The commanders tried to calm them, telling them humans were primitive and weak. But in their own eyes, the soldiers saw only doubt. Every alien knew the truth in their hearts. They were not the hunters here, they were the prey. At night, the second attack came, this time louder, crueler. An entire camp of warriors was surrounded. The storm masked the footsteps of their enemy. The wind carried no warning. Then from the dark came fire. Bullets cut through the rain, not energy beams, but ancient projectiles of metal. Yet these bullets tore through armor as if it was paper. Dozens of aliens fell before they even knew where to fire. The survivors turned their weapons into the trees, unleashing plasma, burning the forest. But the humans were gone, only their shadows remained. The aliens fired until their weapons overheated, until the night was silent again. When the smoke cleared, more than 100 were dead, their bodies lying in the mud, their eyes staring at the sky. Fear spread like a disease. The strongest warriors began to question their leaders. Why had they come here? Why had they not retreated? But retreat was no longer possible. The orbiting fleet had lost contact. Their ships above were silent, as if swallowed by the same storm. The zone was closing its jaws around them, and the humans, unseen and patient, were tightening the noose. By the third day, the aliens marched in silence. They did not speak of glory anymore, only of survival. Every sound made them jump. Every shadow made them aim their weapons. They moved through broken ruins, ancient stone towers covered in vines. The ruins felt too human, too purposeful, as if humans had left them here for this exact moment. Some of the aliens believed they were being guided, pushed deeper into the zone, and they were right. From the ruins came the third attack. Explosions ripped the ground as hidden mines erupted beneath their feet. Dozens were blown apart, their screams lost in fire. As the survivors scrambled for cover, the humans struck again. Figures in dark armor appeared from the trees, their faces hidden, their rifles spitting death. They moved like ghosts, firing with precision, then vanishing before the aliens could react. Every shot was perfect, every kill deliberate. The aliens fired back blindly, their plasma cutting down trees, rocks, and even their own soldiers. But the humans were gone. Leaving only bodies behind, the commanders raged. They shouted that humans were cowards, that they fought from shadows, but inside even the commanders felt the fear. This was not cowardice, this was mastery. The humans were not hiding, they were hunting. The zone itself was their weapon, and every storm, every beast, every broken ruin was part of their trap. That night, the aliens gathered what was left of their numbers. From 2,000, already hundreds were gone. The survivors ate in silence, chewing bitter rations while the jungle whispered around them. Some swore they heard laughter in the rain, human voices mocking them. Others claimed they saw faces in the dark, eyes glowing from behind ruined walls. The commanders ordered the soldiers to ignore it, to rest, but no one rested. Every warrior knew the next attack was coming, and every warrior feared they would not see the sunrise. The forbidden zone had tasted their blood. It would not stop now, it would demand more, until only a few were left to crawl back, broken and haunted, and above them, watching in silence, the humans prepared their next strike. For them, this was not war, this was the hunt, and the night belonged to the hunters. The jungle was silent when the third night began. The rain had slowed, the storm moved further away, leaving behind a thick mist that wrapped the trees like a shroud. The alien soldiers marched in long lines, their eyes darting at every shadow, every flicker of movement. They were warriors bred on the harshest worlds of the galaxy. But here their pride was breaking. They had faced acid storms and beasts of fire, but they had never faced hunters like this. They thought humans were weak, but the zone had shown them another truth. The humans were predators, and the jungle was their hunting ground. From the mist, the hunters moved, not in great armies, not in open charges, but like shadows, one by one. Each wore dark armor shaped to blend into the trees, their helmets smooth and without mercy. Their rifles were not shining with energy, but silent, cold, and deadly. Bullets whispered through the air, striking with perfect aim. One alien dropped without a sound. Then another, then another. The survivors spun, firing plasma wildly into the fog, lighting up the mist in bright flashes. But the humans were already gone, their footsteps leaving no trail. The aliens tried to regroup, commanders shouting in many tongues. "Form lines, hold steady, do not panic," they ordered. But the jungle did not listen, and neither did the hunters. Every time a soldier shouted, a bullet silenced him. Every time a commander raised his blade to rally, a sniper's shot found his chest. Fear tore through the ranks faster than any weapon. One squad split from the main force, running through vines and broken stone. Their boots splashed in the mud as they fled into the ruins. They thought the ancient walls would shield them, that stone would block human rifles, but when they entered the ruins, the ground opened beneath them. A pit filled with spikes swallowed half the squad, their screams echoing against the walls. The others scrambled to pull them free, but then the mist shifted, and human silhouettes appeared on the walls above. Silent, watching, the survivors fired in panic, plasma bolts tearing apart the stone. But when the smoke cleared, there was nothing there. Only the sound of laughter, faint and cruel, drifting through the mist. Back in the main column, another attack struck. Explosions burst from the trees. Fire ripped through the alien lines. But these were not plasma blasts. They were old, brutal bombs. Shrapnel tore through flesh and armor alike, leaving warriors screaming and broken. The aliens had shields to block energy, armor to resist heat. But against the sharp metal teeth of the bombs, they were helpless. The hunters knew their weaknesses, and they cut into them without mercy. By dawn, hundreds more were gone, their bodies left scattered in the mud, their weapons broken. The survivors moved in silence, too afraid to speak. They carried their dead in shame, and every step they took deeper into the zone felt like walking into a grave. The commanders whispered now instead of shouting. Even they had learned that loud voices only called the hunters closer. As the day stretched on, the aliens began to see signs. Symbols carved into trees, strange marks on the stones. Some said they were warnings, others said they were hunting signs. The commanders ordered them destroyed. But more appeared with every step. The jungle itself was speaking, and its voice belonged to the humans. That night the worst came. The hunters did not wait for ambush. They came like phantoms from all sides. Gunfire echoed through the trees. Flashes of light broke the mist. The aliens fired back, their weapons bright with plasma. But the hunters were too fast. They struck from above, leaping down from trees. Blades in hand, they struck from below. Rising out of mud and water, one alien squad was surrounded. Trapped in a ring of shadows, they fought like beasts, clawing and firing in every direction. But the hunters closed in, every strike cold and perfect. When the mist cleared, the squad was gone, their bodies dragged into the dark. The survivors tried to count their numbers, but no one could agree. They had started with 2,000, and already their strength had fallen by half. Every night bled them further. Every day was only waiting for death. The commanders began to argue among themselves. Some demanded retreat, others demanded one last push to break free. But no matter their choice, the hunters did not give them time. For the humans, this was not war. This was the hunt. They had no need for open battle. No need for grand armies. The jungle was their weapon, the storm their shield, the night their ally. The aliens had come to conquer a weak world, but instead they had walked into a trap older than their empires. The Forbidden Zone was not wild land. It was the edge of hell, and humanity had been waiting at its gates. When dawn came again, only silence remained. The jungle was still, the mist heavy, the ruins quiet. The survivors gathered, broken and terrified, from the trees above. Unseen eyes watched them. The hunters did not speak. They did not celebrate. For them, the hunt had only begun, and they would not stop until only a handful remained to crawl away and spread the message. Earth was not weak. Earth was death, and humans were the deadliest predators of all. The jungle was no longer just an enemy. It was a graveyard. Broken alien machines rusted in the rain. Bodies lay half buried in mud. and the air was thick with smoke from burned trees. Everywhere the survivors looked, they saw reminders of failure. They had come with 2,000 warriors, proud and armed with the galaxy's finest weapons. Now less than half remained, tired, wounded, and afraid. The Forbidden Zone had not only stolen their strength, it had stolen their pride. As they marched through the ruins, whispers began to grow louder. Different species blamed one another for the losses. One reptilian captain snarled at the insectoid commanders, claiming their scouts had led them into ambushes. The insectoids clicked angrily. Accusing the reptilians of cowardice, a fight broke out. Plasma blades and claws clashing in the rain. Dozens of soldiers circled, weapons raised, ready to kill their own allies. It was only when a distant rifle cracked and one of the fighters dropped dead that they remembered the true enemy. The humans were still there watching, and the shadows were laughing at their weakness. The commanders tried to restore discipline, but discipline was gone. Every soldier thought only of survival. Every soldier looked at his comrade and wondered who would die first. At night, the arguments grew worse. The reptilians demanded to retreat. The insectoids demanded to press forward. The mammalian warlords claimed they should burn the jungle down with orbital fire. But when they reached for their comms to contact the fleet, the sky gave no answer. Static filled their channels. Lightning roared above, and the warships in orbit were silent. The fleet that had once promised safety was gone. Or worse, watching without helping. In the dark, the humans struck again. Not with bullets this time, but with sound. Their machines broadcast strange whispers through the mist. Voices in every alien tongue. Voices of dead soldiers crying for help. Voices of commanders calling false orders. The aliens chased the voices, only to fall into traps, mines hidden under leaves, razor wires strung between trees, pits that swallowed whole squads. Every scream echoed through the jungle, and every survivor grew more desperate. By the fourth night, the survivors began to break apart. Small groups deserted the main force, hoping to find their own way out. But the deserters never returned. Sometimes the others heard their gunfire in the distance. Sometimes they found only scraps of armor and blood. The jungle devoured those who strayed, and the hunters guided them into its teeth. In the heart of the ruins, the commanders tried to build a fortress. They set up energy shields, mounted plasma cannons, and dug trenches. They thought if they held one place, the humans would be forced into open battle. But the humans did not attack directly. Instead, they cut off food, they cut off water, they cut off hope. Supplies rotted, storage crates were found empty. Ration packs were poisoned one by one. Soldiers collapsed from hunger or sickness when they searched for clean water. They found only rivers full of corpses floating downstream. The zone itself seemed to obey the humans. Every path closed, every resource denied. On the fifth day, the sky split open. Alien eyes turned upward, desperate for their fleet. But what they saw were human warships descending through the clouds. They were not the massive fleets of the invaders, but lean, dark vessels cloaked in shadows. They hovered in silence, their presence alone enough to crush the spirits of the survivors. When the aliens tried to fire at them, the ships released pulses of energy that killed their targeting systems. Cannons fell silent, shields cracked, and the fortress became useless. The humans did not destroy them with fire from the sky. They let the zone finish what it had begun. Inside the fortress, paranoia grew into madness. The insectoids accused the reptilians of betraying them to the humans. The reptilians tore into the mammals, blaming them for calling the humans weak. The mammals screamed back that they should have listened to the warnings. The fortress became a slaughterhouse, allies killing allies. Blood running in the trenches meant for their enemies. From the trees, the hunters watched without moving. They did not need to strike. The invaders were destroying themselves. When the dawn came, the once mighty army was reduced to scattered survivors. The fortress burned, bodies piled high, smoke rising into the gray sky. Less than 1,000 still lived, their eyes hollow, their weapons low on power. The Forbidden Zone had broken them. The humans had broken them. The survivors no longer looked like conquerors. They looked like prey that had been cornered and skinned. That night, the shadows moved closer. The humans began the next stage of the hunt. No more whispers, no more waiting. Now the hunters would bleed them openly, and the survivors, weak and desperate, would learn the final truth. Earth was not only dangerous because of its storms, its beasts, and its cursed lands. It was dangerous because of its people. And those people were preparing to finish the war in silence. The ruins of the alien fortress smoldered under the gray sky. Smoke rose in thin black lines, carrying with it the stench of burnt metal and blood. The once mighty invaders had torn each other apart in rage and fear. Now less than 1,000 remained, huddled in shattered walls, staring at shadows that never left. Their commanders barked orders, but the voices carried no weight anymore. Every soldier knew the truth. This was no longer a war of conquest, this was survival, and they were losing. The humans tightened their grip without ever showing their faces. Each night the survivors heard movements outside the walls, heavy boots stepping on stone. But when they fired into the dark, there was nothing. Sometimes they woke to find their supplies missing, their guards dead with throats cut. Other times they found strange marks carved into the walls, symbols that none of their translators could understand. The humans left no bodies, only reminders. It was as if the shadows themselves were telling them that escape was impossible. Food ran out first, the jungle gave them nothing. Every creature they hunted turned out to be poisonous. Every fruit melted through their fingers like acid. Water was harder still. Rivers ran black with filth, wells ran dry. Some soldiers risked drinking from streams, but their bodies twisted with sickness within hours. The commanders tried rationing what little remained, but the hunters struck the storage crates again and again. By dawn, only empty boxes remained. The survivors grew thin, their armor hanging loose on their bodies, their eyes hollow with hunger. Then came the storms, thunder shook the ruins, lightning shattered stone. Rain fell so hard it drowned the trenches. The aliens tried to repair their shields, but the pulses from the human ships above killed their systems every time. They huddled in mud, their once proud banners torn to shreds. And in the storm, the humans struck, not in great numbers, but in whispers. One sniper shot cracked through the rain, dropping a commander where he stood. The soldiers fired blindly into the night, but only thunder answered. Another shot came, another leader fell. The humans were cutting out the heads, leaving the army leaderless by the 7th night. The survivors no longer obeyed anyone. Some tried to desert the fortress, crawling through the mud into the jungle, but they never returned. Others sat in silence, staring at the rain. Whispering to themselves, the commander still alive begged the fleet above for rescue. But no answer came, only static and the endless roar of storms. It was as if the stars themselves had turned away. The siege was not only hunger and fear, it was madness. Each morning fewer soldiers remained. Sometimes a squad simply vanished in the night. Other times the survivors awoke to find their comrades' armor stacked neatly in the courtyard. The bodies gone. The humans were not just killing them. They were breaking their minds. Every survivor began to wonder if they were already dead, if they were trapped in a nightmare that would never end. One night, the hunters revealed themselves for the first time. Figures in dark armor appeared on the ruined walls. Backlit by lightning, they did not fire, they did not speak. They simply stood there. Watching, unmoving, the aliens opened fire, plasma burning across the stone, but the figures did not fall. They vanished into the mist as if they had never been there. The survivors screamed, some dropping their weapons, some clawing at their helmets in panic. It was then they understood. The humans were not ghosts, but they were no less terrifying. Desperation drove the invaders into madness. One faction tried to seize what little food was left, killing dozens of their own. Another group attempted to repair a dropship hidden in the ruins. But before it could take off, a missile streaked from the clouds and tore it apart. The humans would not allow escape, not yet. The siege was not about ending lives quickly. It was about draining hope until nothing was left but despair. The days blurred into one long nightmare. The survivors counted time only by the thunder. From 2,000 proud warriors, now only a few hundred remained. Their armor was broken, their weapons bent, their spirits shattered. The forbidden zone had stripped them of everything. And the humans, patient as shadows, watched them fall piece by piece. Then came the final message, carved into the wall of the fortress during the night. No one saw who wrote it, but every alien read it when the sun rose. It said in simple words they all understood, "The zone is not yours, leave if you can." The words cut deeper than any bullet, for the survivors knew the truth. They could not leave. The fortress was their cage, and the hunters had the key. The siege was nearly over, and soon the last survivors would understand what it meant to be prey on Earth. The zone had chosen its victims, and the humans would decide who, if any, were allowed to live. The ruins of the fortress were quiet when the 6th night ended. No more arguments, no more commanders barking orders, only the hollow sound of rain dripping from shattered walls. From 2,000 proud warriors, less than 300 remained. They were not soldiers anymore, they were ghosts in broken armor. Hunger had stolen their strength. Fear had stolen their minds. But one thing remained, the desperate will to escape. They gathered in the courtyard, eyes sunken, armor cracked. Weapons heavy in their hands, a new plan spread among them like fire in dry grass. They would not wait to be hunted anymore. They would break through the jungle, fight their way back to the landing site. Even if only a few survived, even if none survived, they would not die trapped in ruins like animals. The commanders, what little remained of them, called it the last march. Every survivor knew it was the last stand. At dawn they moved. Columns of broken warriors pushing through mud and vines. The jungle swallowed them as it had swallowed so many before. Every step was slow, every breath heavy. The silence was worse than the storms. They knew the hunters were watching. Every soldier felt eyes on their backs. Every soldier knew a bullet could take them at any second. But no shot came. The humans were waiting, and the silence became a knife twisting in their minds. The march carried them into deeper ruins. Great stone statues lay broken among the trees, carved in human shape. Their faces eroded, but their eyes still sharp. The aliens shivered as they passed, feeling as though the statues themselves judged them. One whispered that these ruins were built for war, that long before the galaxy had found Earth, humans had made this place for battles just like this. The others told him to be silent, but in their hearts they knew he was right. Then the ground shook. The earth split, swallowing part of the column. Warriors screamed as mud and water dragged them under. The survivors tried to pull them free, but the soil turned to quicksand. In moments, dozens were gone. Those who lived stared at the sinking pit in horror. The jungle itself was killing them now, and they had not even seen the hunters yet. Hours later, when the survivors reached open ground, they found them. The hunters were waiting. Not hidden this time, not shadows in the mist. They stood tall in the clearing, clad in black armor, glowing eyes behind steel masks, and behind them came the thunder of giants. Human mech suits stepped from the trees, each one towering like a walking fortress, their cannons hummed with power. Their footsteps shook the earth. The aliens froze, their courage cracking like glass. This was no ambush, no whisper in the dark. This was the humans revealing their true face. The predators had come to finish the hunt. The last stand began with fire. The aliens screamed and charged, plasma rifles lighting up the clearing. Blasts tore into trees, burned the air, struck the mechs in a storm of light. But the machines did not fall. Their armor absorbed the plasma. Their shields bent but did not break. Then the mechs returned fire. Cannons roared, missiles streaked. The ground erupted in flames. Dozens of aliens vanished in the blast, bodies hurled into the sky. The survivors fought on, firing, screaming, clawing through smoke and blood, but the mechs did not stop. Every step they took crushed the ground. Every strike shattered another squad. The hunters moved among the chaos, fast and silent, blades flashing, rifles cracking. They cut down the desperate survivors one by one, never wasting a bullet, never missing a strike. The aliens tried to fight back, but their shots hit only shadows. They tried to rally, but every leader was cut down the moment he raised his voice. The jungle echoed with the screams of warriors who had once called themselves fearless. Now they begged for mercy, but the humans gave none. Still, some fought with the fury of doomed beasts. A reptilian warlord leapt onto the leg of a mech. Tearing at its joints, the machine staggered. But a blade from a human soldier cut him down before he could strike again. An insectoid squad launched themselves into the trees, hoping to outflank, but the trees themselves betrayed them. Collapsing under hidden charges, they fell screaming into fire. Every attempt, every desperate act, ended in blood. By nightfall, less than 50 remained. They stumbled through the ruins, their weapons empty, their voices gone. The mechs no longer fired, the hunters no longer struck. The survivors were too broken to fight. The humans watched from the shadows, letting the jungle finish what was left. Every step the survivors took was heavier than the last. Every breath a reminder that they were already dead. Finally, the march ended at the edge of the zone. The landing site stood before them, empty and silent. The dropships they had left behind were nothing but twisted wrecks. The sky above was still storming, lightning tearing across the clouds. The survivors fell to their knees. They had reached their goal, but there was nothing left to take them home. The last stand had ended not in glory, But in ruin from the shadows, the humans stepped forward at last. 5 survivors looked up at them, eyes wide with terror. 2,000 had come to Earth's forbidden zone. Only 5 remained to crawl back. And those 5 carried with them the message the humans wanted spread. Earth was not prey. Earth was death. And its hunters would never forgive those who came uninvited. The rain had ended when the last battle was over. The jungle was quiet, as if the forbidden zone itself had grown tired of drinking blood. Smoke curled above shattered trees and broken ruins. The bodies of the alien warriors lay scattered in the mud, twisted, burned, forgotten from 2,000 who had marched into the zone. Only 5 crawled out alive. They were not proud anymore. Not warriors, not conquerors. They were broken creatures dragging their feet through the swamp. Their armor hung in pieces, their weapons were gone, their eyes hollow. Every step was pain, every breath a reminder of those who had fallen. Behind them, the shadows of the humans watched. The hunters did not strike again. They did not need to. The survivors were no longer a threat, they were messengers. And the humans wanted their story carried into the stars. The 5 staggered through ruins that once felt endless. They no longer cared about the whispers in the mist. The glowing eyes in the trees, they no longer cared about the storms overhead. All they wanted was to reach their fleet, to escape this cursed world that had swallowed their brothers and sisters. One stumbled and fell into the mud. Crying out in a broken voice, the others lifted him. Not out of loyalty, but out of fear. No one wanted to be left behind in the zone. When the trees broke, they saw the landing site at last. The field where their dropships had landed was a graveyard. Engines still smoldered. Wrecks half buried in vines, wings torn away by storms. Their mighty machines of war now looked like bones in the earth. The survivors dropped to their knees. For a moment they thought they were trapped forever. But then a signal came, faint and trembling, above the clouds. Their fleet had finally returned contact. The message was desperate. "Survivors, report. What happened down there?" One of the 5 screamed into his comm, begging for extraction. The others shouted, crying, their voices broken by fear. When the fleet heard there were only 5 left, silence followed. It was a silence heavier than thunder. Then the fleet commander gave one order: retrieve them, and nothing more. A small shuttle descended through the clouds. Its lights cut through the storm, landing on scorched earth. The 5 dragged themselves aboard. Collapsing in the metal bay, the crew looked at them in horror, not at their wounds, but at their eyes. Eyes that had seen the impossible, eyes that would never forget. As the shuttle lifted, the survivors looked down one last time. The forbidden zone stretched below them, endless dark waiting on the broken walls of the ruins. They swore they saw figures standing, tall, silent, armored hunters watching them leave. None of the survivors spoke, but all of them knew the truth. The humans had allowed them to live, not as mercy, but as warning. When they returned to the fleet, the story spread like fire. Officers gathered around the survivors, demanding answers. What weapons had destroyed them? What monsters had killed their armies? The survivors could not explain. They spoke of storms that cut ships from the sky, of traps that swallowed squads whole, of shadows that struck with knives and rifles, and of human war machines that walked like giants through fire. No one wanted to believe them, but the scars on their bodies, the terror in their voices made belief unavoidable. The survivors gave the same words again and again. Do not return to Earth. Do not enter the forbidden zone. Humans are not prey. They are predators. If you go there, you will not come back. The fleet withdrew from orbit. No more attacks, no more landings. They left Earth behind, carrying with them the tale of failure. And soon across the stars the story spread, of 2,000 Deathworld warriors who landed on Earth. And of the 5 who returned to tell the tale, whispers grew in distant empires. Admirals asked themselves if Earth was cursed. Generals wondered if humans were truly the most dangerous species alive. Merchants, politicians, and spies all repeated the same line: do not touch Earth. It belongs to the hunters back on the planet. The forbidden zone was silent again. The jungle healed, the ruins stood tall, and deep within the mist the humans returned to their shadows. They did not celebrate, they did not boast. For them, it had not been a victory, it had been a warning. The galaxy had been reminded that humanity was not weak, and those who forgot would pay the same price. The 5 survivors lived on, but they never escaped what they had seen. In their dreams they heard the jungle breathing. In their silence they saw the glowing eyes in the dark, and each time thunder rolled across the sky, They remembered the footsteps of the hunters. They carried their fear forever. And through them, the galaxy carried it too. The 5 survivors never spoke of Earth without trembling. Their voices shook, their eyes grew distant, and silence always followed their words, but the story spread anyway. From ship to station, from empire to empire, it carried like wildfire. 2,000 Deathworld warriors had landed on Earth's forbidden zone. Only 5 had returned in the halls of alien empires. The tale became legend and curse. Some leaders dismissed it as cowardice. How could humans, fragile and backward, defeat 2,000 of the galaxy's strongest? But others listened closely. They studied the survivors' scars, the madness in their eyes, and they whispered the words that chilled every council chamber. If this is true, then humanity is not prey. They are predators. Perhaps the most dangerous predators we have ever seen. The galaxy had long called Earth a death world. Its storms, its poisons, its beasts were infamous even before humans took to the stars. But now a darker truth spread. It was not the storms that killed armies, not the beasts, not the jungle. It was the humans who had mastered them. The humans who turned their own cursed world into a weapon. The Forbidden Zone was no wilderness. It was a trap built by hunters, and the humans had lured 2,000 warriors into it to make a point. Across the stars, fear began to grow. Merchants refused to chart courses near Earth. Smugglers abandoned their routes through the Sol system. Even the great war fleets gave the blue planet wide distance. Some whispered that Earth was cursed, others said it was worse, it was protected. A fortress not by walls, but by its people. And those people were watching, waiting, hunting. But fear did not silence ambition. There were always empires hungry for conquest. Some rulers saw the survivors' tale as weakness. 5 returned, they said. That means 5 were spared. Perhaps humans wanted witnesses, perhaps it was a bluff. They began to plan invasions. They gathered ships and soldiers, but always. Before their fleets could launch, something happened. Scouts vanished. Generals disappeared. Supply stations burned in the night each time. Messages arrived carved into steel, written in blood. Remember the zone. Humanity itself said nothing. They did not send ambassadors to boast of their victory. They did not broadcast threats to the stars. Instead, they remained silent. And the silence was more terrifying than words. Every empire wondered what the humans were building in their shadows, what warships they hid under their oceans, what weapons they tested in the storms. The silence became the loudest warning of all. The 5 survivors were carried across the stars as living proof. Their bodies broken, their minds scarred. They became warnings in flesh, every scar a reminder of Earth's wrath. Every scream in their sleep a lesson to those who dreamed of conquest. They lived long but never in peace, for even far from Earth, the Forbidden Zone lived inside them. They saw it in shadows, they heard it in storms. They carried the jungle in their nightmares. And through them, the galaxy carried it too. In hidden councils, whispers grew into fear. If 2,000 could fall, how many would it take? 10,000, 100,000, would that be enough? But none dared to test it. For the cost of failure was too high. The survivor's tale was carved into the heart of every fleet. And the lesson was clear. Do not land on Earth. Do not challenge humans on their own soil. Do not enter the Forbidden Zone. On Earth itself, the humans prepared in silence. Their warships patrolled the skies. Cloaked and patient, their mechs stood hidden in ruins. Ready to rise, their hunters walked the jungle. Perfecting the craft of fear. They knew the galaxy would come again one day. Curiosity, greed, pride. It would bring another army. And when that army came, Earth would be ready. The zone would open its jaws again and the hunters would feed. The story of the Forbidden Zone became more than legend. It became warning. It became prophecy. Across the stars, children were told before sleep, do not wander where you don't belong, or the humans will find you. Soldiers were reminded before battle, fear no enemy, but remember Earth, and leaders spoke it in silence when they looked at maps. The Sol system is untouchable. The galaxy was vast, filled with empires, wars, and ancient powers. But among all its stars, one truth was carved forever. 2,000 had entered Earth's Forbidden Zone. Only 5 had returned, and because of those 5, the galaxy would never forget the name of the hunters, the name of humanity.